And a happy Super Bowl Sunday out there to everyone. This is another edition of the Sports Wrap with Michael Kravetz. And on today's show, we'll be getting into Penguins, Panthers, and then the Super Bowl tonight. The Penguins played 4 games since we last had a show, and it started off with a good, solid defensive effort in Ottawa on the road, where Fleury, where he has struggled in the past in Ottawa, a great performance. Only allowed 1 goal. They won in the shootout 2-1. The only bad thing about the night was that the Penguins' power play was 0 for 5. There were a couple breakaways given up by the Penguins. Thankfully, Fleury stopped them. The Penguins had a couple breakaways, and they weren't able to capitalize on them. But it was a good, solid defensive effort. Obviously, the offense, you want them to produce more. But they got the win, and it was another road win, so that was good. And then they came home last Tuesday against the Islanders, where in the past, Penguins have owned the Islanders, but of recently, including last year, the Islanders cost the Penguins of being a number 1 seed in the playoffs. In this game, the offense looked lifeless. Once again, the power play was stagnant. They go 0 for 3. Actually, the Penguins only had 1 shot on their first 2 power plays. They only had 1 shot on goal in the first 8 minutes of the game. The Islanders were up 1-0 after the first period, and then the second period, which the Penguins have been having problems of lately, giving up goals. The Islanders scored 3 in the period. They go up 4-0. The late goal was salvaged by Pascal Dupuis, prevented the Penguins from being shut out. So they still were unable to get a home win at Consol, which was disappointing for a lot of the fans because this was definitely one of the worst games I've seen the Penguins play in quite some time. 2 days later, though, back on the road against the New York Rangers. And in this game, it was like the exact opposite. The Penguins dominate. The Rangers were shut out 3-0. Vaucoon got the start because Fleury looked horrible against the Islanders. The power play was not that good, but they were able to capitalize once, going 1 for 6 off a James Neal goal. The defense looked good. Malkin looked really good. He scored within the first 2 minutes of the game, and that's what set the tone. Rangers committed lots of penalties. Penguins only committed a few. Or honestly, the Penguins committed 4, but they were able to kill all 4 of the Rangers' power plays. And Simone Dupre, he showed his great flashes of offensive scoring that was with him in the AHL with the Wilkes-Barre. And when he was coming out of the penalty box in the third period, got the pass from Dupuis, did a nice move, got Lundqvist, and got the goal to make it 3-0, and that was the nail in the coffin. So the Penguins now have beaten the Rangers twice already in Madison Square Garden, and the record on the road, 4-1 up to this point. So that was a great win. It's just they got to beat the Islanders and the Devils now that they kind of have now beaten the Rangers twice and then the Flyers. So, the game yesterday afternoon, back at the Consol Energy Center, the Penguins were hosting the New Jersey Devils, the only team at the point who did not lose in regulation. The first period was scoreless, but in the second, dominated by the Penguins. Sutter gets his first goal as a Penguin. Kunitz gets a goal. Then Letang, Crosby, and Robert Bortuzzo, his first in the NHL. Crosby had 2 goals and an assist that game. Kunitz, 1 goal, 2 assists. Dupuis 2 assists. It was a good outing by Fleury. They only allowed 16 shots. He saved 15. Penguins dominated, winning the game 5-1. So at this point, the Penguins were in first place. Got their first win at home. Everything was looking good. They also claimed Zach Boychuk off of waivers before the Rangers game. And now he will be playing alongside Malkin and Neal. So we'll see what he provides there. He's a young forward. He was taken in the first round by the Hurricanes, and he rejoins his former teammate in Brandon Sutter. So now we go to today, which the game just wrapped up. Penguins on the road again in Washington. From the onset, Penguins got the first goal 3.5 minutes into the game. Chris Kunitz Well, it was a Martin shot, and it looked like it was deflected off Kunitz's stick, but they still have credited it to Martin. And then the assists were by Crosby and Kunitz. And then Mike Green got a goal, and then Matt Cook scored. He was in front of the net. The Penguins were up 2-1 after the first period. Then, in one of the most bizarre goals you'll ever see, John Carlson for the Capitals shot it off the glass, and there have been weird bounces at the Verizon Center. And though Kuhn went behind the net to play the puck, he thought it was going to bounce there. Here it bounces into the net. Ties the game up at 2. But then from that point on, Letang and Kunitz both score within a span of 37 seconds. They go up 4-2. Kunitz gets another goal on the power play. And then in the third period, he adds another goal for a hat trick. The Penguins beat the Capitals 6-3. Pretty good performance by Kuhn. Wasn't spectacular. But now the Penguins are 5-1 on the road. So it's looking like Kuhn's going to be their stalwart on the road so far. He's performed much better on the road than Fleury has. So, with the win, the Penguins are 6-3. They are now only 1 point behind the Boston Bruins for the Eastern Conference lead. The Penguins are leading their division. And they got a huge game on Tuesday at New York Islanders. You want to get some revenge for the home loss earlier in the last week. So, I expect the team to do well. Their power play is starting to look a little better. They were 1 for 2, I believe, on the power play in today's game. And the defense is looking strong. Paul Martin's looking good. Obviously, though, the injury to Niskanen, who will be out for a couple weeks, and Lovejoy being banged up, they were able to fill in Simone Dupre and Robert Bortuzzo. So they're filling in pretty adequately. You're seeing the depth with the Penguins' defense. So I expect them to continue this surge. They've won 3 in a row, so it'll be interesting to see in the coming weeks how far this team maybe can separate themselves from the rest of the Atlantic Division. And now switching gears to the Pitt Panthers. Pitt was coming off a huge blowout win over DePaul on the road in the KFC Yum Center against the Louisville Cardinals, who were struggling. They were coming off a 3-game losing streak themselves. In this game, it was a 9-9 tie early on in the first 5 minutes, but then Louisville pulled away. They had a 12-0 run in the first 4 minutes. Pitt was turning the ball over way too much. They had 10 in the first half. Louisville had too many second-chance scoring opportunities. They were up by 11 at one point, and at the half they were up 32-26. Second half, they start off out of the gate with a 5-0 run. Pitt had trouble containing the breakout play from Peyton Siva. He was attacking the basket, assisting almost on every field goal. They couldn't stop the quickness of Russ Smith. But Pitt, though, they were hanging around. It was 45-40 at one point, 49-45 Louisville. And then the closest Pitt got, a minute 14 left in the second half. Louisville was up 58-55 after a Lamar Patterson three-pointer. Pitt got the ball. Woodall was fouled, and it was a 1-and-1 opportunity. Makes both, 1-point game, 43 seconds. Have a chance. He misses the front end of a 1-and-1, kind of just like the same scenario against Cincinnati in Pitt's first Big East game, where Woodall had a chance and he blew it. Bottom line was the free throw line were the struggles for this team once again. They were 3 of 12, only shooting 25% from the free throw line. They make 3 or 4 more, they win this game. They had a last desperation three-pointer that Woodall made near half court at the buzzer to make it closer. Louisville won 64-61. So Pitt was 5-4, back in the middle of the pack of the Big East. They had a home game coming up. It was yesterday against Syracuse, who had a week off after coming off that loss to Villanova. This was a huge game. Pitt has beaten Syracuse the past 4 times at the Peterson Event Center, so Pitt was actually favored in this game. And to start off early, Steven Adams, he looked sluggish early on. Pitt was 2 for 10 shooting the first 7 minutes. Syracuse had an early 12-5 lead. Adams had to leave the game in the first half because his ankle, he was limping. But the only good thing, though, is that Pitt was getting some good ball action movement and penetration. And then Adams was able to return with about 6 minutes left in the first half. And the big key was that on 8 of the 9 field goals were assists by Pitt players. And surprisingly, they led Syracuse at half 27-25. The first 2.5 minutes, Pitt was scoring in the second half. They were up 31-25. Trey Ziegler was coming off the bench with some key runners that he was making. Pitt was increasing their shooting to 44%. The only bad thing was that they were 2 of 12 from three-point range. They still had a small lead. With about 7 minutes left, Pitt went up by 6. They had 15 assists on 20 field goals. All 10 players contributed by scoring. Woodall led the way with 13. And then with 5:20 in the second half, Pitt was up by 7. They were hitting from the free throw line. They shot 66%. I know that's not good. Much better than the 25%. And the bench. The bench was the big key. They outscored Syracuse's bench 31-3. And Pitt had 18 assists on 23 field goals. And at the end of the game, toward the end, Pitt was hitting their free throws. They end up beating Syracuse 65-55. And now Pitt is now 13-1 all-time at home against AP top 10 teams. That's just unbelievable. And four of the 13 wins have been against Syracuse when they were in the top 10. So now Pitt is now 6-4 in the Big East. Syracuse is 6-2. Marquette is losing right now to Louisville. If they were to fall, they'd be 6-2. And now Pitt, one game back, essentially, from taking the lead in the Big East. This win against Syracuse was the marquee win that they needed. I'm not going to say it guarantees them a tournament spot just yet, though, because if they lose out, of course they won't make it. But that's the resume building win they needed. They have 8 games remaining in Big East play. You figure they go 5-3, they're going to get in. Still have some more quality opponents that they're going to play. That'll be more quality wins. 2 road games at Cincinnati, at Marquette, teams they lost to at Peterson Event Center. Home against Notre Dame. Still got Villanova on there again. St. John's, who's an up-and-coming team. So Pitt has a lot of winnable games left. It's just a matter now of building their resume, improving their seeding, and then for the Big East tournament, how far can they go? I think Pitt's definitely now one of the top 4 teams in the Big East. I'd say Pitt, Syracuse, Louisville, and it's a toss-up between Georgetown and Notre Dame, but I'm going to go with Notre Dame right now as the top 4 teams. Notre Dame, Pitt, Syracuse, Louisville. Marquette on the outside, and Cincinnati too. I just think this Pitt team, they're hitting their stride at the right time. Already have more wins than they had last year in the regular season portion and in the Big East. So nowhere to look but up right now for Pitt, and they got a game on Monday, tomorrow, home against Seton Hall. It shouldn't be a letdown game. It should be a game where they continue to work better on their free throws, better on the defense and the offensive side, and it should be a nice, comfortable win for them. Of course, that's not how it always is in the Big East. It's always a tough game every night, but I expect Pitt to win. Then they got a road game at Cincinnati, and then another week off at Marquette. So some big games coming up for Pitt. They just got to hope they can find a way to win them. Just improve their record in the Big East, improve their seeding. Maybe they'll get back in the top 25 when it comes around next week. And now I will talk about the Super Bowl, which is upcoming in about 3 hours. Kickoff should be Super Bowl 47, Ravens 49ers. I think it's going to be a close game. The Ravens defense has really come together in the playoffs. They're getting a couple key players back from injury. They handled the Patriots. They handled the Broncos. They handled the Colts. The 49ers handled the Packers, came back, a huge comeback against the Falcons. 49ers have that pistol offense, which no team really has been able to stop. Can the Ravens? I don't think so. I know Kaepernick's still young, only his 10th start. Flacco, he's had big games. He's never been to the Super Bowl, but he's been in the league 5 years. I just think Kaepernick's going to come up big. I know generally first-year quarterbacks, well, technically he is a rookie. This is his second year in the NFL. Struggle in huge games. He hasn't lately. I think him running will be huge. I think Vernon Davis will be huge. That's my pick for the MVP, the big tight end. I think 49ers get the win, 23-20. It's going to be close. That score will indicate that David Akers is going to make 3 field goals. I know he struggled of late, but I think he'll get his game back together. I don't think it's going to be too high-powered offenses scoring back and right because the defenses are so well coached. And then with the Ravens, you got Lewis, Suggs, and Nada. And then with the 49ers, you got Willis, Bowman, Smith brothers. It's going to be a really tough, grueling defensive game with some spurts of some good offense. So I expect the 49ers to win. They were my pick at the beginning of the year to represent the NFC in the Super Bowl. Obviously, I picked the Steelers and the 49ers, and the Steelers to win. But at least I got the team from the AFC North. At least I got the AFC North division represented, and then I have the 49ers on the NFC side. So, expecting it to be a good game. Should be a lot of fun. And on next week's show, we will be talking about the Penguins games, Pitt's game against Seton Hall, Cincinnati. Give you some analysis, some of the finer things I picked up after watching the Super Bowl tonight. Talk about that. I guess maybe an early preview, maybe some teams I think might make the Super Bowl next year. Obviously, I'm not going to hold myself to those picks. But in any news with the Pirates, the pitchers and the catchers, they'll be reporting to Bradenton February 12th. So that should be a lot of fun to get spring training close to being starting. And also any other interesting sporting news that might happen in a week's time. I'll definitely be discussing it. So thank you for listening. Signing off on the Sports Wrap, I'm Michael Kravetz.